somebody doesn't want me to stop petting her, so she followed me into my room when I went to go film. Because she's my filming buddy. You my filming helper? Yeah, I don't know where your sisters are. Probably causing trouble somewhere. You don't care as long as you're being pet. Hello everyone, it is Sam, and I hope you guys are having a great day today. Sorry, I have a little Westie down here who keeps nudging my hand, so I'll pet her. So if I seem a little distracted, that is why. Today I am here to film a book tag. I'm here to do the I Dare You book tag. This tag is created by Rihanna Reads, and I was tagged by Richard from Richard Bruna, who and I will link both of these people down below because you should go check out their channels because they are fantastic. So, let's dive into these questions. Question number 1 is to dare to jump backwards. Name a book you went into blindly and it let you down. For this, I choose Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I mean, of course, I was aware of Wuthering Heights, but I, believe it or not, did not actually know the plot of this before I went into it. So I did go into it somewhat blind, not knowing what to expect, and I hated it. I hated every moment of this book because I hated the characters. I could not empathize with any of them. I just wanted to chuck this book across the room, and I was just so disappointed, particularly since I really like Charlotte Bronte's and Anne Bronte's works, but I have to admit that Emily just kind of misses the target for me. She just, no. Very disappointed. Number 2 is One Drink Too Many. Name a book that gave you a hangover. Definitely going with Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. This was the final book in the Fitz and the Fool trilogy and the final Land of the Elderlings book, and I have to admit, I felt like I was going through a mourning period when I finished this last month because it's the end of the Fitz and the Fool story, and I just wasn't prepared because I'm going to miss them. And for the past couple of years, these books have been such a big part of my life, and they brought me such joy and sometimes sadness. And I just, yeah, I literally want to start rereading the entire series again right now because that's how much I miss it. Number 3 is Spin the Bottle. And for this one, you need to name a book that has a terrible romance or romance scene. For this, I am choosing a recent read for me, that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I really had a problem with a lot of the romantic elements in this book. Did not like at all how the men were acting and how they were kind of demanding things and forcing themselves, and I just had a lot of issues with a lot of the romantic elements in this book. Took umbrage with quite a bit of it, to be honest. Number 4 is Mooning. For this one, you need to name a book that was a little too descriptive. For this one, I'm actually going to choose Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence. I had a really hard time. I didn't really have a hard time. I had a love-hate relationship with these books. They weren't my favorite. I had a kind of a hard time with the anti-hero, I guess, because he really was a villain, the main character, and he was kind of an asshole, and you really didn't feel that sympathetic for him at all. And a lot of the scenes were very graphic in terms of the description of the torture and the killing and what have you. And so it was a little bit difficult to read at times. Like, I have a pretty strong stomach for the most part, but this was even a little bit like, oh, really? Didn't need that much detail, so yeah, this series is definitely an interesting one. Not one I would ever reread, but it was definitely graphic to say the least. Question number 5 is Scream and Run. For this one, you need to choose a book that did not have enough description at all. No, it was horrible. Nothing was described. Nothing. The world wasn't described. The characters weren't really described. The science wasn't described. Nothing. It lacked so much description that I was left feeling frustrated and angry. So I'm just so done with this book. I don't believe in throwing books, so I'll merely angrily and forcefully set this book down with purpose. Question number 6 is Staring Contest. For this one, you need to name a book that you thought would take you a long time, but was actually over in the blink of an eye. I'm choosing The Red Knight by Miles Cameron. When I first read this book, I thought that it would take me quite a while to read because it is a little bit dense in terms of his writing style, and it definitely moves very slow, but I actually finished it a lot quicker than I thought I would. So this was definitely a book that I definitely got a lot more into than I thought I would at first. Number 7 is Car Crash. Name a book that started great but ended badly. I'm going to choose Allegiant by Veronica Roth. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Divergent trilogy, but Allegiant was horrible. I mean, it was just so bad. And I know I'm not the only one that feel this way, but like the way that she shifted character perspectives was awful in this book. And just in terms of how this trilogy ended, I was not a fan. I mean, the big thing that happens in the end, I felt was fitting. If you read the series, you know what I'm talking about. But in general, I thought this was the weakest book in that entire trilogy. And you really want to end a trilogy in any series on a strong note, not on a low note. Question number 8 is amnesia. Name a book that you forgot about or forgot that you read. For me, it has to be Nicholas Nickleby by Charles Dickens. I know that I read it when I was in school because I ran into some old curriculum that I had on it, like a book report I had written, but I don't remember reading it, so I really need to reread it. I'm like, I don't really remember any of the plot. I mean, I vaguely remember the book being in my possession at some point from the library, but I don't actually remember reading it. So it's a book that I'm going to have to reread, particularly since I like Dickens, and I can't believe I apparently forgot that I read this book. It would have been in like 8th grade though, so I mean, in my defense, that was like 15 years ago. Question number 9 is broken limb. Name a book that shattered you. For this, I'm going with Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is actually my favorite Robin Hobb book. Of all of her books, this one was my favorite. And it devastated me. The last 250, 300 pages, I was crying off and on. And these were happy tears and like sad tears, and it was just an emotional roller coaster for me. I don't get emotional that often. It takes a lot to make me cry. So the fact that this book was able to do this for a good chunk of it, I mean, 250, 300 pages is not really a small chunk, is pretty dang impressive. But this was definitely an emotional roller coaster of a book. And finally, question number 10 is who do you tag? I'm going to tag Regan from Peruse Project, Michael from Bitten by a Radioactive book, Kaitlin from Kitty G, Elizabeth from Books and Pieces, and Ben from Ben Sanders. And anybody else who wants to do this tag, please feel free to do so because it is definitely a fun tag to do. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and seeing my answers to these questions. And I hope you guys all have a lovely day. Until next time, happy reading. Bye!